After receiving more than 90 complaints from tenants within the last week, the city of Omaha is conducting a full-scale housing inspection at the Yale Park apartments near 34th and Lake. Several families living inside the apartments have reported rodents, bed bugs, lice, and gas leaks. The Salvation Army says it will offer temporary shelter to those affected. The city officials are about to hold a news conference. You can see it set up right there. We will take this when they begin speaking. Our crews have been on scene all day speaking with residents of the apartment complex as we wait for that news conference. Let's go to senior reporter Jake Wazakowski, who is live at 34th and Lake with this continuing coverage. Jake?
Well, Jenny, this is literally developing as we speak. We're seeing people. I'm going to get out of the way right now. People are being told that they have to leave their units here at the Yale Park apartments at 34th and Lake. A man right over here, Jeff, you want to move over to see, seen carrying a large plastic tote, whatever they can right now at this point. They've been told to go sign in over at under an Omaha City Park tent. But everybody is trying to get as many things as they can out to make sure that they can take what they can at this point. We've seen parents bringing out small children for about the last 20 minutes or so, Jenny. Again, continuing to develop. I've been told by the city of Omaha that a lot of people have been asked to leave at this point. We've seen dozens coming in and out, but we don't know the exact number right now, but we have been told a lot of people. One resident I talked to said that he believes it could have been from a possible gas leak as some MUD crews were testing how much gas was in certain buildings around here. But again, the situation continues to develop. Again, like you said, we're hoping to hear from the city of Omaha shortly. But what we've been seeing over the last 20 to 30 minutes here has just been dozens and dozens of people who have been more or less asked to leave apartment buildings. Another tenant I talked to said that her building hasn't been asked to leave, but a number of the other ones, at least a couple of the other ones, 3, maybe 4 of them, have been asked to leave. So what's going to happen at this point is they're trying to get everybody to sign in, know who they have, and then possibly give them, a ride over to one of the temporary shelters at this point. I see some Omaha City officials getting ready, hopefully, for this press conference coming up with Ben Gray, also City Housing Inspector Scott Lane, as well as Planning Department Director Dave Fanslaw. They are all here getting ready at this point. But again, what I've heard so far, a lot of people are being told that they do have to leave the apartment buildings at this point. Again, the Yale Park apartments are low-income housing with many immigrants from places like Thailand and Burma that are living here. As Jenny mentioned, since last week, people living more than 90 units had filed formal complaints for issues like gas leaks, mold, electrical issues, and mice. Now, many had the help of local advocates to file those complaints. Residents say they're not good living conditions, but the landlord says a couple of residents are coming after him. And if we can go ahead and hear that sound from earlier this morning, a little bit about what they said.
I do maintenance myself. I know exactly what's going on, you know what I mean? Gas leaks can cause explosions. I mean, you got leaky roofs near outlet covers in the ceiling, which can cause a fire.
We've gone around and talked to them. They say we don't have any problem. We don't want to go anywhere. We love it here.
Last night we had people knocking on our door, crying.
They're terrified.
Okay, and again, we're waiting for the city to talk right now. We're going to get over to the city right now. Again, they said a lot of people are being asked to leave their units here, so we're going to go ahead and send it over to where the city is giving a live update here on possibly how many people are being asked to leave.
One second.
That's fine.
Well, first of all, thank you all for coming again today. For those of you who weren't here this morning, and for those of you who were, thanks for coming back. Over the last 5 or 5.5 hours, we got a lot of work done across the street. And what we have found is what we suspected. We have found some violations and some code issues that will result in us having to vacate all 100 units. Hopefully today, that's our goal.
Residents and the city said they've known these apartments have had serious issues for years, but the city could not go into effect until a resident made an official complaint with the city. Last Friday, over 90 tenants made official complaints, and today the city found that the complaints were valid and much worse than expected. The Yale Park apartments are closed for now. Almost every single tenant complained to the city of inhabitable living conditions last week. After inspecting all 100 units, life-threatening issues were discovered.
Approximately 27 electrical circuits that were so bad that had to be powered off, which included entire buildings. We found plumbing issues, electrical issues, mechanical issues. We had bed bugs, we had lice, we had maggots, we had roaches.
Given the amount and severity of the health and safety violations, the city evacuated all 500 tenants and offered them refuge at 2 community centers.
We're hoping that within, I'll say, 5 to 7 days, we have a more permanent solution.
City Council President Ben Gray toured the apartments. He said the conditions were terrible and wants the landlord to be held accountable.
And it's time for us to say enough is enough. 500 people being displaced is a disgrace.
Landlord Kay Anderson, who also lives in those apartments, says he didn't think conditions were that bad and says the city is ambushing him.
A lot of these things are not a problem to where they need to do this. This is being done simply for political gain, for power, for ego.
Well, the entire building is now officially closed. The city said it will probably be out there again tomorrow to continue inspecting. The landlord now has 30 days to do any necessary repairs in all 13 buildings and make it habitable.
School and city buses dropped Yale Park Apartments residents off at the Adams Community Center while others drove themselves. The city told residents to bring enough clothing to last them through the weekend. But tenants were at risk of carrying bed bugs with them, something the city is trying to prevent.
There have been bug infestations throughout the building, and so as we work to house individuals, we'll be working with them to gather their belongings, treat the belongings so that they don't take those critters with them, and then move them into, again, either home ownership or rental situations.
Volunteers began rolling donations into the building, with most of them carrying bath towels. Families will be allowed to claim belongings from their apartments during daytime hours. City officials will be working with Yale Park to ensure the residents, many of who are refugees, have habitable living conditions, something Heyman Ullah, an Omaha North student, has been without.
The roof, it'd be like, the water like be sinking on it. Where I'd be sleeping on my bed, it'd be wet and stuff.
The city says most of the residents are staying at Adams overnight, while 50 will be at Columbus Park. All others staying with family or friends.
But we also understand in the coming days that this could very well be a re-traumatizing experience, as these folks have already been displaced at least one other time before this.
For the first time, the Yale Park landlord is in court facing criminal charges for the living conditions that were unsafe for about 500 people in September. Kay Anderson pleads not guilty in Douglas County Court to 99 charges for misdemeanor code violations. In September, more than 500 people had to move out because inspectors found gas leaks, electrical issues, and unsanitary living conditions at Yale Park. Anderson says he feels like he's being targeted.
I think that's without question.
These proceedings are a disgrace. They're scary and they're very un-American. There are probably a few criminals in this courthouse. Mr. Anderson is not one of them.
Inspectors say the 90-day time period passed without anything being done. Anderson's attorney says they have been trying for a while to meet with the city to make a plan to start the work.
We submitted a proposal to the city to make some repairs and improvements. We actually just heard back this morning. The city has finally agreed, we think, to a meeting, which we're trying to schedule now, but it's taken them this long and things like that.
I know where the problems are.
Council President Ben Gray says his top priority for 2019 is a landlord registry to get a better handle on Omaha's bad properties and get them inspected. City Prosecutor Matt Kuzi didn't want to speculate on if that would decrease these criminal code violations in the metro.
That's something else that's being handled by the policymakers. I simply enforce the law as it exists.
Anderson could face a fine plus up to 6 months in jail on every misdemeanor count. Another court date has not been set yet.
City Council President Ben Gray says the situation at the Yale Park Apartments brought to light the need for a landlord registry like in neighboring cities La Vista and Council Bluffs. However, he says the one here in Omaha might look a little bit different than in those cities, but something still needs to be done. Gray says by early next year, he expects to be debating the possibility of an Omaha landlord registry, so a Yale Park situation never happens again.
That property was out of control 10 years ago. It should have been demolished 10 years ago. The fact that we're sitting here with it and the fact that we're sitting here debating what to do about it means that we haven't, as a city, done the appropriate job that we should have done in checking those properties.
The apartments were only inspected because a formal complaint was filed, something Gray would like to see stay as a part of a landlord registry.
It should be a complaint-driven process. I mean, we shouldn't just be going out willy-nilly looking at properties.
For 7 years, La Vista has had a landlord registry in place. City Inspector Jeff Sinnott says it has been a good thing for landlords and tenants.
They get a home that's code-compliant, like a single-family or new constructed home.
All properties are inspected either every year or every other year. And now 80% of apartments are in compliance with city code.
But now it's mainly just cracked window or something overlooked, maybe some chip paint on the outside. It hasn't seemed to be the severe cases have actually dramatically improved.
Unlike La Vista, Gray says he doesn't think all apartments should get inspected every year. Instead, he wants to focus on problem apartments like Yale Park so that no one has to live in those types of conditions again.
And the fact of the matter is that we've got substandard properties in a number of areas around my district and around the city of Omaha. And we cannot continue to allow that to happen.